Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
The war ended at 1437 local cycle time. No explosion marked the moment. No final barrage lit the sky. Instead, the Virex planetary defense grid simply went dark. Across Kale Prime's bruised horizon, the towering spires that had once glowed with defensive energy flickered and dimmed like dying stars. The thick violet clouds above parted just enough to reveal Terran warships holding position in low orbit, silent, waiting. Staff Sergeant Aaron Hale stood on the cracked salt plains outside forward operating Bastion 3 and listened to the wind. It carried the scent of mineral ash and something faintly metallic. Virex blood, long dried into the dust after months of trench warfare. His helmet rested under his arm. His armor was scarred and pitted from plasma fire. The insignia on his shoulder had been repainted twice since landing. A soft chime sounded in his earpiece. All Terran units, this is Fleet Command. Virex High Council has transmitted unconditional surrender codes. I repeat, surrender confirmed. Stand down from offensive posture. Around him, Marines froze. Some exhaled sharply. One man laughed once, a disbelieving bark. Another simply sat down in the dirt. Aaron didn't move. He'd learned on Kale Prime that silence could be a trick. 3 years earlier, this world had been humanity's worst defeat. The Virex had superior atmospheric weapons, biomechanical fortresses that grew back when bombed, and soldiers who could see infrared trails in the dark. The first Terran landing force had been nearly wiped out. Aaron had been part of the reinforcement wave. He remembered stepping off the dropship into knee-deep marsh sludge under artillery fire. He remembered dragging Private Elson behind a shattered Virex obelisk while the sky burned green overhead. Elson never made a home. Aaron closed his eyes briefly. The war hadn't been clean. It hadn't been heroic. It had been slow, grinding, and ugly. Humanity adapted, as it always did. Engineers studied captured biotech. Scientists cracked Virex shield harmonics. Soldiers learned their patrol rhythms. And now, somehow, the unbreakable world had bent. A transport skimmed low across the plain, kicking up spirals of pale dust. A diplomatic banner shimmered along its hull. Terran blue crossed with Virex gold. Aaron's comm clicked again. Sergeant Hale, report to Surrender Pavilion immediately. You've been requested by name. He frowned. Requested by who? Virex High Council delegation. That made even less sense. Still, orders were orders. The pavilion. The surrender site stood where the heaviest fighting had once raged, a neutral zone carved out between former trench lines. The Virex didn't build like humans. The pavilion wasn't assembled. It had been grown overnight. Translucent membranes arched upward like the inside of a living lung, reinforced by crystalline ribs that refracted light into soft amber patterns. The structure pulsed faintly, as though it had a heartbeat. Aaron stepped inside. The air was warmer than outside, humid and thick, tailored to Virex biology. 3 members of the High Council waited at the far end of the chamber. They were taller than average Virex, their elongated skulls adorned with ceremonial latticework that shimmered faintly beneath the membrane ceiling. Between them floated a Terra-made translator drone, its lens blinking softly. The eldest counselor inclined its head. Staff Sergeant Aaron Hale of the Terra Marine Expeditionary Forces. The drone rendered the voice in comm, measured English. Aaron gave a minimal nod. That's me. You are recorded as participating in the defense breach of Spire Delta 7. That's classified. It was decisive. Aaron said nothing. The counselor continued. In accordance with Virex capitulation rights, we honor adversaries who demonstrate resilience and tactical evolution. You are designated as one such adversary. Aaron had a bad feeling about where this was going. The counselor extended one long, 4-fingered hand. The membrane wall behind them rippled and slowly peeled back. Under our tradition, the elder said, victorious champions may claim recompense. The word felt wrong. Define recompense, Aaron said flatly. The drone hummed. A companion. One of our daughters. She will be bonded to your household. Fed, housed, protected. She will offer loyalty and cultural exchange. Aaron's jaw tightened. This wasn't mentioned in the surrender briefings. 6 figures stepped forward. The line, they were all Virex females. That much was clear by the softer ridge patterns along their necks and the faint luminescent markings across their arms. 5 of them were slender, their posture flawless. Their movements were slow and deliberate, trained. Their bioluminescent cheek markings shimmered subtly, likely enhanced for presentation. They did not meet Aaron's eyes. The 6th stood at the far end. She was broader through the shoulders and hips, her torso layered with soft folds of protective subdermal tissue common to marsh-dwelling Virex. Her breathing was slightly heavier from the short walk-in. Her ceremonial sash sat awkwardly across her frame, as though it had not been tailored carefully. Unlike the others, she looked directly at him, not seductively, not pleading, just directly. Her amber eyes were sharp, intelligent, and braced for disappointment. Aaron's chest tightened. He'd seen that look before. New recruits who thought they wouldn't be picked for specialist units. Kids back home who were always chosen last in schoolyard games. Soldiers passed over for promotion because they didn't fit command's polished image. The elder counselor gestured. Choose. The word echoed softly in the organic chamber. Aaron's mind raced. This wasn't a gift. It was a test, a display, a cultural ritual designed to preserve Virex pride even in defeat. Give the conqueror something beautiful, something enviable, something that says we still offer value. His gaze drifted back to the last girl. She shifted her weight. One of the slender females subtly angled her body forward, luminescence brightening. Aaron suddenly felt exhausted. 3 years of war, and this is how it ended? With selection, with someone being measured and ranked. The heavier girl's hands were clasped tightly in front of her. Her knuckles, thicker than the others, were pale where pressure cut off circulation. She was already preparing herself to be passed over. Aaron recognized the moment. He had lived that moment. He stepped forward, and the chamber grew very, very quiet. The silence inside the pavilion thickened as Aaron moved. 6 pairs of alien eyes tracked him. The humid air hummed faintly through the living crystal arches above, refracting soft amber light across the line of waiting Virex women. Aaron didn't look at the counselors. He walked slowly past the first candidate. She was poised perfectly, chin lifted, posture open, bioluminescent cheek markings glowing a controlled rhythm meant to signal receptiveness. She did not raise her gaze, but Aaron saw the subtle tightening in her jaw as he passed. The second candidate shifted her hands delicately, claws polished and ceremonial bands gleaming along her wrists. The third inhaled slightly, expanding her narrow-ribbed frame in a display of physical health. The 4th and 5th followed suit, subtle, trained movements. They had rehearsed this. They knew what this ritual demanded. Then Aaron reached the 6th. Up close, he could see that her ceremonial sash was indeed ill-fitted, drawn tight across her broader torso. The fabric dug slightly into the soft layering along her sides. Her breathing was steady but heavier than the others, and she was still looking at him. Not coy, not defiant, just bracing. Her amber eyes were ringed with faint gold flecks, unpolished, natural. There was no enhancement glow along her cheek ridges, no cosmetic shimmer. She had not been prepared to be chosen. Aaron stopped in front of her. Behind him, he heard the faint murmur of one counselor whispering to another in low-frequency Virex tones. The translator drone hovered closer. "Make your selection, Sergeant Hale," it said calmly. Aaron lifted his hand and pointed. "I choose her." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The drone emitted a soft static crackle, as though verifying translation accuracy. Then it repeated. He selects the final candidate. The pavilion shifted, not physically, but atmospherically. The 5 unchosen females stiffened almost imperceptibly. One's cheek markings dimmed at once. Another finally looked up in visible confusion. The counselors conferred in hushed clicks and harmonic pulses. The eldest turned back to Aaron. "You decline the prime companions," it said carefully. Aaron kept his eyes on the girl in front of him. "Yeah." The girl blinked. Her hand lifted slowly, pressing against her chest. "Me?" she asked, her voice deeper than the others, edged with disbelief. The translator rendered it faithfully. Erin met her gaze directly. "Yeah, you." Her breathing hitched. The counselor's discomfort grew more obvious now. Frill ridges along their elongated skulls fluttering in agitation. "She is not of optimal aesthetic ratio." One counselor stated plainly. Erin's jaw tightened. "I didn't ask for optimal." A pause. The elder tilted its head. "Clarify your reasoning." Erin finally looked toward them. "You want honesty?" The chamber stilled. "You lined them up like equipment," he said. "Like inventory." A faint ripple passed through the pavilion membrane. He gestured slightly toward the remaining 5. "They're polished, trained, prepared to please a conqueror." His gaze shifted back to the 6th girl. "She's the only one who looks like she didn't volunteer." The translator drone hummed as it processed tone and intent. The elder responded, voice lower now. "She was offered as part of equitable representation." Erin let out a slow breath. "In my culture," he said quietly, "you don't reward a soldier by giving him someone who didn't get a say." The girl's fingers tightened slightly against her sash. The counselors exchanged another series of harmonic whispers. Finally, the elder inclined its head. "So recorded. The selection is binding." The 5 unchosen females were guided away through the membrane opening. None protested. None looked back. The chamber felt emptier instantly. Only Erin and the chosen girl remained before the council. The elder spoke again. "You assume full responsibility for her integration and welfare under Terran jurisdiction." "I do," Erin said. The elder turned to the girl. "You are reassigned to Terran custody. You will uphold dignity of the Virex." Her throat worked before she answered. "Yes, counselor." Erin noticed her voice tremble, not with fear alone, but with something else. Relief. Outside the pavilion, the Kale-primed sky had shifted toward dusk, violet clouds deepening into indigo. Terran dropships hovered in control patterns overhead as reconstruction teams moved in. Erin walked beside her in silence. Up close, he realized she was slightly shorter than him, but significantly sturdier in build. Her gait was careful, as though she expected at any moment to be told this was a mistake. After several steps, she spoke. "My designation is Luma." The translator rendered her words through Erin's wrist unit now. He nodded. "Erin." She repeated it carefully. "Aron." He smiled faintly. "Close enough." They reached a temporary Terran transport. Before boarding, Luma hesitated. "You will not resell me?" she asked quietly. Erin froze. "Resell you?" "Transfer companions are often exchanged among victorious houses," she explained, "to improve alliances." Something cold settled in Erin's stomach. "No," he said firmly. "That's not happening." She searched his face, trying to gauge truth. "You are dissatisfied with your selection?" she asked cautiously. He almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of the absurdity. "No," he said. "I made my choice." She seemed unable to process that sentence fully. The barracks reaction. Word spread fast. By the time Erin stepped into the Terran staging area with Luma at his side, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Corporal Diaz approached first. Helmet tucked under his arm, eyebrows nearly reaching his hairline. "Tell me that's not your reward." Erin shot him a look. "Watch it." Diaz lowered his voice. "You could have had any of them, man." They were practically glowing. Erin's expression didn't change. "She wasn't," he said. Diaz glanced at Luma, who stood quietly a few steps back, clearly aware she was being discussed even if she couldn't catch every word. "That's the point," Erin continued. Diaz frowned. "I don't get it." Erin turned fully toward him. "You remember Beckett?" Diaz's expression shifted immediately. "Yeah. Last draft cycle before the war," Erin said. "Didn't pass aesthetic standards for officer track. Too stocky. Not command material." Diaz winced. "Beckett saved half of Delta Squad." "Exactly." Erin glanced back at Luma. "She's not decorative. She's not polished. Which means she probably hasn't spent her life being told she's valuable." He looked back at Diaz. I'm not interested in rewarding myself with someone society already favors. Diaz studied him for a long moment. You're serious? Yeah. After a beat, Diaz gave a slow nod. Damn, hell. That night, Luma was given temporary quarters, a converted officer cabin. Aaron stood awkwardly near the doorway as she examined the space. The room was small but clean. 2 bunks, a storage locker, a narrow viewport showing the darkening horizon. She ran her fingers across the edge of the bunk mattress, pressing experimentally. You are displeased? She asked. No, you have not approached me. It took him a second to understand. Realization dawned, slow and heavy. You think I picked you for... He trailed off. She looked down. That is the function. Aaron stepped further into the room, careful to keep distance. Luma, he said gently, you're not property. She didn't respond. In my culture, he continued, if someone lives in your house, it's because you both agree to it. She blinked. You agree? She asked uncertainly. I chose you, he said. That doesn't mean you don't get a choice now. Silence stretched between them. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, Why? There it was, the real question. Aaron leaned back against the wall, exhaling slowly. Because you were the only one who looked real. Her eyes lifted to meet his. You look like someone who's been overlooked, he said quietly. And I've seen enough of that in this galaxy. Her breathing wavered. No one has ever selected me, she admitted. Aaron gave a small, tired smile. Yeah, he said softly. I figured. The ship engines roared to life outside as the carrier prepared to lift from Kale Prime for the first time since the invasion. Inside that small cabin, something shifted. Not ownership, not obligation. Recognition. And for the first time since the war began, Aaron felt like he had made a decision that wasn't about strategy or survival. It was about choice. The Terran carrier Resolute Dawn left Kale Prime under heavy escort. No celebration accompanied the departure. No music played across comm channels. The war had ended, but the wounds were still fresh, and not only human ones. Luma stood near the viewport during ascent. Kale Prime shrank beneath them. A scarred world of marshlands and fractured plains, its once glowing spires dimmed to cold silhouettes. From orbit, the destruction looked almost abstract, beautiful in its geometry. Aaron stood a few steps behind her. You miss it? He asked. She considered the question carefully. It is my world, she said at last. It is also where my brood brother fell. Aaron nodded. I'm sorry. She glanced back at him, puzzled. You did not kill him. That doesn't mean I didn't kill someone else's. That answer seemed to settle into her differently. For the first time, she began to understand something important. Humans carried war long after it ended. The first weeks, life aboard a Terran military vessel was an assault on Virex senses. The air was drier, the lighting harsher, the corridors narrower. Luma moved cautiously at first, careful not to brush against walls or personnel. Her broader frame required constant spatial awareness. A few crew members stared openly. Most pretended not to. Aaron noticed every glance. He didn't confront anyone, not yet. Instead, he made adjustments. He requisitioned a portable humidifier unit for her quarters, filed a thermal variance request to lower the cabin temperature, brought extra protein rations after discovering Virex metabolism required nearly double the caloric intake of a human soldier. She tried to refuse the additional food. I should not consume more than you, she said once, pushing the tray back toward him. You're twice my mass, Aaron replied. That's math, not greed. She tilted her head. Math is kindness? Sometimes. That seemed to intrigue her. Misunderstandings. The first real tension came unexpectedly. Aaron had returned from a debriefing, jaw tight from reliving combat reports. He tossed his gloves onto the table harder than intended. Luma flinched violently. Her back pressed against the wall. Her breathing quickened. The bioluminescent patterns along her arms dimmed instinctively, a submissive reflex. Aaron froze. I wasn't angry at you. She said nothing. I wasn't angry at you, he repeated, softer. On Virex worlds, elevated volume and sudden motion were precursors to disciplinary strikes within bonded households. Raised voices meant correction. Humans yelled when frustrated. Virex masters yelled before punishment. Aaron stepped back deliberately, lowering himself into a seated position to appear smaller. "I need you to understand something," he said carefully. "I don't own you." She looked confused again, not resistant, just uncomprehending. "That is how transfer works," she replied quietly. "Not with me." Silence stretched between them. Finally, she asked, "Then what am I?" It was a dangerous question. Aaron thought before answering. "I guess," he said. The translator hummed as it searched for a Virex equivalent. None existed. Luma absorbed the word slowly. "Guess," she repeated, testing its shape. That night, she slept lying down for the first time instead of perched upright on the edge of the bunk. Progress came in increments. Stories of water. 3 weeks into transit, Luma began to talk more. It started with a question. "On Earth," she asked one evening, watching Aaron clean carve and scoring from his rifle components, "is it true that water falls from the sky?" "Rain." He smiled faintly. "Yeah." "Invisible sheets?" "Sometimes so thick you can't see 5 meters ahead." Her cheek markings brightened unconsciously. On Virex, water flowed in subterranean rivers and surface marshes, but precipitation was rare and acidic. Aaron pulled up archive footage on his datapad. A recording of a thunderstorm rolling over the Atlantic coast. Luma leaned closer to the screen. Lightning cracked across the display. She recoiled at first, then stared, mesmerized. "The sky fractures," she whispered. "Pretty much." "Does it harm you?" "Sometimes. But mostly it just reminds you how small you are." She considered that. "In Virex teaching, we are told we must never be small." Aaron huffed softly. "Yeah, humans get told that too." She studied him in the glow of the screen. "You do not believe it." "No," he admitted. "I think knowing you're small keeps you from becoming a monster." The idea lingered between them. The question came on the 32nd night of transit. They were alone in the cabin. The ship hummed steadily through slip space. Aaron sat on the lower bunk, reviewing discharge options on his tablet. Luma watched him for a long time before speaking. "Why me?" He didn't look up at first. "You've asked that before." "I require full understanding." He set the tablet aside. "Okay." She sat opposite him, posture careful but no longer rigid. "In Virex society," she began, "mass correlates to marsh adaptation. It is practical. But in urban castes, lower mass is equated with refinement, with control." Aaron listened quietly. "My brood clutch was advanced to council districts," she continued. "My siblings reduced mass through ration discipline. I did not." "You weren't built for it," Aaron said. She blinked. "Built. Your body's designed for colder wetlands. Subdermal layering keeps you insulated. It's not excess, it's adaptation." She stared at him. "No one has described it that way." He shrugged slightly. "Back home, people call that stuff too much." "But too much compared to what?" "A standard made for somebody else." Her breathing deepened. "You saw utility," she said slowly. "I saw someone who didn't fit the mold," he corrected. She hesitated, then asked quietly, "Is that why you joined your military?" That one hit harder than expected. Aaron leaned back against the wall. "I joined because I didn't fit anywhere else." The confession hung in the air. "War does not require fitting," she observed. "No," he agreed. "War just requires surviving." They sat in silence. Then she said it. "No one has ever chosen me." He met her eyes. "I know." Her next words were softer. "I believe selection tonight would be for humiliation, a gesture of pity." It wasn't. She searched his face for deception. What was it? Aaron took a breath. It was refusal. She tilted her head. "I refuse to end a war by pretending worth is measured by symmetry." The translator processed carefully. Luma's bioluminescent markings brightened along her arms, not in submission this time, but in something warmer, understanding, a new definition. By the time Resolute Dawn neared Terran space, Luma walked the corridors with less hesitation. Crew members began adjusting too. Small things at first. A widened berth in the mess hall. A technician installing moisture panels without being asked. Exposure reshaped perception. One afternoon, Aaron returned to find Luma reviewing Terran ecological databases. "You are studying?" he asked. "I am comparing marsh biomes," she replied. "Your northern continents contain suitable environments. You thinking of visiting?" She looked at him carefully. "You said I am a guest." He nodded. "Guests may choose to remain," she said. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, they can." For the first time since Kale Prime, Aaron felt something shift inside his chest. Not the way of command, not the ache of loss. Possibility. The war had been about domination. But this was about learning. And somewhere between rainstorms and marshlands, between soldier and survivor, something entirely new was forming. Not ownership, not obligation. Choice. Earth did not look like Kale Prime. As Resolute Dawn entered Terran orbit, blue dominated the viewport. Endless oceans, swirling white cloud systems, continents veined with green. Light reflected off cities like scattered constellations. Luma stood still for a long time. "The sky is alive," she whispered. Aaron leaned beside her. "Wait until you see it from the ground." Arrival. They disembarked at North Atlantic Transitional Port, a military-civilian integration hub built along a rugged stretch of coastline. Cold air rolled in from the sea, sharp and clean. Luma inhaled deeply. The temperature suited her immediately. Her shoulders relaxed. The faint bioluminescent patterns along her arms brightened in what Aaron had come to recognize as comfort. Still, the stairs began almost at once. Humans slowed mid-step. Conversations dipped. Children pointed before parents gently pulled their hands down. Luma noticed. Her posture tightened. Aaron didn't move closer possessively. He didn't shield her. Instead, he walked beside her at equal pace, visible, calm, unbothered. That mattered more. Adjustment. Aaron declined his extended combat bonus and accepted reassignment to cultural reconstruction and veteran reintegration services. It paid less. It mattered more. They relocated north along the coast to a smaller settlement where fog rolled over pine forests and cold marshlands stretched inland. For the first time since leaving her world, Luma stood in wetlands that felt familiar. She removed her boots and stepped into shallow water. Aaron watched as she closed her eyes. "This," she said softly, "is home-shaped. Not home, but shaped like it." Within weeks, xenobiologists from Terra universities requested consultations. Virex ecological systems were complex, symbiotic, layered, efficient. Luma explained nutrient cycling patterns no Terran scientist had fully mapped yet. She spoke hesitantly at first, then with authority, then with confidence. Her mass, once a source of quiet dismissal in council districts, became an advantage in field research. She could withstand cold exposure longer, navigate unstable marsh ground more safely. Practicality replaced aesthetics, and people began listening. The incident. Not everyone adjusted so easily. One afternoon in town, a group of discharged soldiers sat outside a cafe. One of them muttered loudly enough to be heard. "Guy fights a whole war, and that's what he brings home." The laughter was low, but sharp. Luma heard it. Her bioluminescence dimmed. Aaron stopped walking. He turned, not aggressively, not theatrically, just directly. "You got something to say it," he called calmly. The soldier shrugged. "Just thought heroes aim higher." The old Aaron, the battlefield Aaron, would have stepped forward. Instead, he asked, "Higher than what?" The soldier gestured vaguely toward Luma. Aaron studied him for a moment. "You know what I learned on Kale Prime?" he said evenly. "The galaxy's full of people who think value comes in one shape." No one laughed now. "I'm done fighting for that idea." Silence lingered. Aaron didn't wait for apology. He turned back and continued walking. Beside him, Luma's glow slowly returned. "You did not strike him," she observed. "No," Aaron said. "I fought enough. The real reason. It happened on the anniversary of the surrender." They stood on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic. The sky was gray, wind steady. Waves struck rock in rhythmic bursts below. Luma had grown stronger in this year. Not physically, though she was that too, but internally. She walked without shrinking. She spoke without waiting for permission. Still, one question remained. She turned to him. "I believe I understand much," she said, "but not all." Aaron glanced at her. "The day of selection," she continued, "you said I was real, that you refused symmetry." "Yes, that is philosophy." She paused. "But not emotion." He looked back at the sea. Wind pulled at his jacket. "You're right." He took a slow breath. "When I was 17, I tried out for officer prep." She waited. "Didn't make it," he said. "Not because of test scores. Not because of performance." "Why?" He gave a faint, humorless smile. "Didn't present command presence. Too lean. Too quiet. Not impressive enough." Luma's brow ridges lowered slightly. "So you enlisted?" "Yeah." He kicked a small stone off the cliff's edge. "I spent years proving I was useful, valuable, worth keeping around." The wind filled the silence between them. "When they lined you up," he continued, "I saw that same look, the one that says you already expect to be overlooked." Her breathing slowed. "I didn't choose you out of pity," he said firmly. "I chose you because I was done letting systems decide who counts." She absorbed that slowly. "You saw yourself," she said. "Yeah." She considered this with visible care. "In Virex thought," she said, "shared reflection forms the strongest bonds." He glanced at her. "Guess we're ahead of schedule then." A faint sound escaped her, a laugh, deeper and fuller than when they first met. Then she did something she had never initiated before. She stepped closer, not hesitantly, not seeking permission, just choosing. Her larger hand slipped into his. Warm, steady. "I was sent because I did not fit council beauty metrics," she said. "But you have shown me something." "What's that?" "That war ends many ways." He looked at her. "You think this counts?" She nodded. "You ended one inside yourself." The ocean roared below them. For the first time since Kale Prime, Aaron felt something unclench fully in his chest. The war had given him medals, scars, nightmares. But this was a victory no report would record. He hadn't chosen the most beautiful. He hadn't chosen the most polished. He had chosen the one who reminded him that worth was never supposed to be a competition. And in doing so, he'd chosen the kind of man he wanted to be after the war. Luma leaned gently against him, bioluminescent markings glowing softly against the gray horizon. Behind them, Earth stretched wide and imperfect and alive. Ahead of them, not conquest, not survival, but something far rarer, a future built on choice.